Okay, good evening and good morning and good day to all the participants. Thank you all for taking time and coming for this session. Hope it will be of some use to you. This is basically, I would like to share some of my experience plus thoughts plus what I have picked up from various masters. I don't know what are you expecting, because when I said human technologies, probably you all may be thinking that you will get some gadget which will actually magically transform us into happy states. But I'll be talking about the most powerful gadget that we have on this earth. That's about our own human body, mind, energy system. And we'll see how to use that, because I think we are unaware of its features and we don't know how to use it. That's why we suffer. So we have a very powerful technology, but we don't know how to use it. So we would like to discuss that today. So this is kind of the premise for this today's session. Whatever everybody is doing in this world is to be happy, right? Yet the happiness seems to be a fleeting mirage all the way. We get happiness, but it vanishes. I think we seek again something more for happiness. Should it be that way, or is there any better way? That's one part. Another part is in all walks of life, happiness is a prerequisite for great leadership, not just in the professional sides, even in family, social, all contexts. And joyful leaders are talent magnets and multipliers. They attract people, they retain and grow talent, they inspire and bring the full potential out of people. That's why happiness is so important in all walks of life. So before I get going, I would like to say my samarpane to some of my gurus. These are some of the known, but there are many unknown gurus. They are not known mostly to the world population, but great masters. Whatever I'm going to talk about is actually basically from them. So I would like to just do a samarpane to them. So let's get started with that state of happiness. So I would like you to imagine if you have to draw a graph of your happiness for 1 month. X-axis is time and Y-axis is level of happiness. How would that look like? Maybe something like this. Most of the time not so happy, once in a while very happy, again come back to not so happy state. And something has to happen to make us happy. Normally we are in this state, something happens, I'll become happy. I get something what I wanted, or people say something which I like, I become happy. Again, after a while, it goes back to the state. Now, this is our adult happiness graph. Now, if you look at children, especially the younger ones, because nowadays we are spoiling them too early. If you look at children's happiness graph, most of the time they are happy. Once in a while, they become unhappy. Something hurts them, something happens, they become unhappy, but they quickly bounce back to happiness state. They start jumping and running, laughing. And just look at this. We were that child some time back, right? We were like that some time back. And we have successfully inverted this graph. So how did we manage that? Any thoughts why it happens like that? Quick reflections. Anybody?
We are not in the present tense.
Yeah. Because many people say that, oh, children don't have responsibility. We grown up.
Maybe it's about.
Yeah, Jagdish?
Expectations.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe expectations and identification with that expectation. Too much identification.
Hmm.
Comparison.
Yes. Comparison. Yeah.
Quarterly targets.
Targets. They are much bigger expectations. Yeah. So
Worrying about future and also thinking about past.
Absolutely.
Desire,
Yeah.
they less desire, right, for them. They live moment to moment. They don't have big desires. Like we have so many burdens of desire. We want this, we want that. So that makes us.
Yeah.
Not
And what?
being in the present.
Yes, absolutely. That is the core actually. We may say all other things. I heard people say that, we have responsibilities. They are very free. They don't have responsibilities, all those kind of things. But it's essentially they are living in the moment. They are in the present moment all the time. They're not worrying about the past or fearing about the future. Whereas we, if you observe our own mind, 90% of the time, it will be oscillating between the past and the future. I should have done that. Why this person said this, all those kind of thing, or to the future. What if this happens? What if that happens? Fears. So we are oscillating between this past and future and very less in the present moment. That is the core reason why,
So just a comment, like this, what they say, terrible twos or terrible ones, I don't know. Like you could have a neighbor kid, he's in the now, but in the now, he's not getting what he wants. So he will scream his head off.
That is this part, momentarily they will be, momentarily they will cry and do something, then comes back and jumps and runs, right?
Yeah, but they need a lot of attention essentially. If you give them attention, then they're happy. If not, they aren't.
What is the cause for their unhappiness could be many things, but I'm saying they're momentarily like that and they come back, they bounce back very quickly. And most of the time they're in a happy state, unless they have some serious health issues and, those kind of things. What I wanted to reflect is that we were like that and we have become like this. Is that a success? Is that an achievement? Yeah. So we'll reflect why we became like that or what can be done. The next question, does happiness lead to success or success leads to happiness? Any quick thoughts?
I guess it depends on what you call success, right? So for some people,
success,
like just working hard today on what you got to do, and the outcome might come a year later. You might be happy with what you're doing now, and you're successful at what you're doing now. Like you accomplish some intermediate tasks and things like that.
Okay, so success could be in terms of whatever accomplishment or money or fame or status or relationships. Anything could be success based on different people's definitions.
Yeah, I mean, one thought here, happiness is independent of success. I mean, success may not come by happiness, but happiness can lead even to failures, but still be happy. You can still be happy, right?
Okay, that's you're in a very good state actually then. But normally we are chasing success because we feel if I get that success, I'll be happy, right? Success could be getting something or becoming something. So we are constantly chasing that, looking for that. Because our assumption is that when I get that, I'll be happy. Or when that happens, I'll be happy. So when that happens, actually then we start looking for another one. That's why it becomes a mirage. And in that process, actually we lose happiness because we go through all these kind of tensions or stress and worries and fears, all kinds of negative emotions, frustrations. And when we are less happy, we actually become less effective in whatever we do. So it can become a negative cycle. Then we don't get success. On the other hand, if you take the position as happiness is a prerequisite for success, because when you are happy, will be more effective in whatever we do. And when you are more effective, whatever is the outcome will come, right? So happiness is actually a prerequisite for success. And when success comes, it will add on to the happiness. That's fine. I think Suhas, you have to go on mute. Okay.
I'm on mute, right?
What is that? Okay, somebody needs to go on mute. Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to put this context that without our awareness or consciousness, compulsively we start chasing success with the assumption that it will give happiness, and in that process lose happiness and become less successful. On the other hand, if you always put this consciously that happiness is a prerequisite for success, so no matter what, I will keep that happiness, then whatever we do will be more effective and actually success comes, whatever is the potential success. So I want you to reflect this point. Now, cost of unhappiness. We can look at benefits of happiness, but I want to look at cost of unhappiness because then it strikes us more. And when I say happiness here, unhappiness, whatever is not happiness is all included in this. Anxiety, stress, worries, fears, anger, depression, whatever you can call, all that, okay? So cost of unhappiness, if you look at ill health, now the modern medical science knows that almost 80% of the diseases are psychosomatic, caused because of mind, because mind has a very big impact on body. And ineffective in whatever we want to do, because our bandwidth, our energy, mental bandwidth, our creativity, many things gets dampened because of unhappiness, and we become ineffective in whatever we want to do. Poor wealth creation because of that, whatever is our potential, we may not be able to create that. Poor relationships, because if I'm an irritated person, it's very difficult for somebody else to be with me, right? Constantly. Suffering for oneself and people around. I also suffer, and when I suffer, I also make people around me suffer actually. Reduce professional social impact, stunted growth in life, and even spiritual evolution. Because even spiritual evolution, we need a much more freer mind actually, not the cluttered and congested and stuck mind. Another one very important is creates more karma. Unhappiness creates more karma. See, in a sense, whatever unfolds in our life is actually unfolding of our past karma, right? That's kind of our spiritual sciences show that karma really means memory in our impressions in various parts of our system, physical, mental, energy level, or many other levels. We'll look at that. So now you observe, if somebody gives you 10 praises and makes one negative comment, what stays in our mind? That one negative comment, right? Because these 10 things, we happily accept it and it dissolves. And this one negative thing, we don't accept and it persists in our mind. So what we resist persists in our mind. That means it creates much deeper impression in us. That is actually karma. It is creating more memory or more impressions in our system. So unhappiness actually creates more karma. So it's not just about this life, it's impacting even multiple lives. Isn't it? Cost of unhappiness is so huge. And who is responsible for all this? That's the most important question. We may think that, oh, the other people or the other situations in the world, they're all causing this. No, they're all triggers. Actually, we are causing all these things to us. Now, if you really reflect, if you are really compassionate on ourselves, do we do all these things to us? We are actually torturing us. Again, unknowingly. So the more we become aware of this, we can actually deal with in a better way. So this is kind of a enigma or a yaksha prashne, Why are we wasting our life not being happy while all we are doing in our life is to be happy? Isn't it? I think we should reflect on this question deeply. Instead of we, probably each of us should ask, why am I wasting my life not being happy while all I want to do in my life is to be happy? Isn't it? Let that sink in a little bit. I think we need to do manana on this. So when you are in a quiet state, I would recommend that you do manana and even nididhyasana, which is contemplation and deeply reflecting upon that. Why am I wasting my life not being happy while everything I'm doing in life is to be happy? It's really a yaksha prashna. That's because we are postponing happiness. If this happens, then I'll happy. If I get this, then I will happy. So I'm not happy right now. So it's a constant postponement. That's where we are wasting our life. So just be happy right away, right now. Because with that, you saw the cost of happiness. You will convert all that into the benefits of happiness. For example, health improves, you become more effective in whatever you want to do. It can bring more wealth, better relationships, less suffering for oneself and others, more impact around us, professional, social context, even better growth in life and spiritual evolution, and dissolving more karma and reducing less karma creation. So much can happen with happiness. I pause a while. Any questions here or comments?
Yes. Yes. So I can, I think it was also on the WhatsApp, and I probably quoted on the movie also, which was years back. But basically, there could be events in your life, where they're just tragic for whatever reasons. It could be a variety of factors, kind of thing. So, at that point of time, I probably say, okay, being unhappy is not going to help your situation. But I can't say I'm going to be happy and joyful. So, English can sometimes be a strange language. So I don't know what you would call that situation where you don't necessarily need to be unhappy, but you probably need to accept things as is or something like that. You can't actually say that you're happy.
Yeah, I think this word can be meaning different things. In English, there are gradations: happy, joy, bliss, taking more deeper. In Indian system, we'll say Ananda is the deepest happiness. It's coming from more deeper. Santosha is a little bit more outward. So there are language which can help to differentiate, but I'm talking about more internal state, not about demonstrating outside, jumping and dancing or singing, that kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah. So whatever may be the situation, if I'm able to retain Ananda inside and deal with outside more a socially, applicable way. Easier said than done. I fully understand that. But that is what we should consciously, practice towards.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm just wanted to trigger.
Vishu,
Yeah.
there are instances where we feel internally happy due to some external circumstances. Maybe we raise our voice or flare up or, react instead of responding to a situation. Maybe we are reacting also at times. So can you just in this session help us to, kind of balance we have it within ourselves, that kind of happiness or somewhere, sometimes some triggers, we as normal human beings, we do react. So maybe you can help out on that.
Yeah, see, react.
And maybe just to add to that, Vishu,
Yeah.
in that example, like, say if something tragic has happened kind of thing. And what you're saying is internally, you need to still be in a state of peace or happy or whatever. But externally, you probably need to demonstrate that you're sad. So is it kind of a conflicting, because I mean, people around you what do they need to see on you?
Yeah.
How come you're not sad? How come you're not maybe crying? I don't know what.
See, those are social conditioning, unfortunately. First to Saurabh's point, I think reacting, if you are aware and then responding, see, you may have to kind of show anger for some action to happen by the other person. But if you are doing it consciously, that's fine. If it is more compulsive or impulsive, I think that's where we need to start becoming more aware and say, I do it more consciously. It will come a little bit with awareness and practice. And of course, we'll see some techniques which will help us to become, because you can't just deal with mind alone. We need to deal with mind, body, energy, the whole system, because they are very interrelated. As we do that practices, we more and more become more responding than reacting, actually.
Thanks, Vishu.
Yeah.
Got a clarity. I was aware of the difference between the two, but got a clarity when you mentioned.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And for Jagdish's question, I would even go up to the points that when death happens, I think socially we are supposed to cry. Otherwise, people will think, oh, what happened?
Right.
Obviously, we don't have to celebrate, but actually, we should be celebrating. If we know what is death, this is happening because ignorance, right? We don't know what is death. Of course, ancient times it was much better, but in the modern times, because whatever influence, we don't even think death means end, right? And it's not. So if you get a new car, do you celebrate or do you mourn?
Celebrate.
Yeah, death means actually that person is getting a new vehicle. He's discarding this old Gadi and getting a new vehicle. So that should be celebrated actually. But of course, socially we miss somebody. That's very true. But if you understand the bigger context, I think it's good for that soul. Not the unnatural deaths, but when naturally somebody passes away. So it is again level of awareness. If you have this, I think we can deal with it in a different way. Again, I'm talking about doing things more consciously.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, I think even our, if I see the current education system, they're all either first rank driven or goal driven, and all those, everything is external. Nothing actually kind of focuses on what can be more internal. And,
absolutely.
So probably that's why I think the whole, the effort is only towards achieving those, and then if it is not, then you're unhappy.
Exactly.
That's how it is done.
Exactly. So we need a lot more effort to be happy internally in this kind of social context, actually. That's true. And we have a lot more deconditioning to do, because the way we are educated and brought up, etc., has a tremendous conditioning on us. So we'll see whatever we can do. We'll see that. That's what the technologies I'm trying to come to. So before going into that, we need to now reflect a little bit more on the nature of happiness. What causes happiness? What causes unhappiness? Any quick reactions? What causes happiness? What causes unhappiness?
Positive factors and negative happenings.
Okay.
So positive happenings will create happiness.
Yeah.
On a surface level, I mean.
Yeah. So this is rapid fire. You don't have to explain. You just shoot things. What causes happiness? What causes unhappiness?
Fulfillment of desire.
Okay, fulfillment of desire. Causes happiness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Reality and expectations match.
Expectation matching causes happiness, and the other way. Yeah. What else?
There are so many reasons to be happy. We can't simply put it in a small this thing.
Okay.
But
Okay.
what kind of happiness we want is it should be eternal. I mean, it should be long last, and it should not be dependent on anything.
Very greedy.
No, that's what Brahmananda or whatever it is, isn't it?
Yes,
If you
yes,
eat some sweets, it will be there for some time, and it will have decreasing effect, and it will
Yes.
be substance dependent.
Yeah.
Once
And
it's
if you
over, our happiness goes off. So
Yeah.
the permanent happiness is such that it does not depend upon anything, and it is forever we are happy.
Yeah,
And
that is the pursuit in the spiritual
unlimited.
path. So I'll put some of these. What causes happiness? What causes unhappiness? Again, if we become aware of that, we can deal with it much better. See certain things at body level: disease, pain in the body, discomfort. All those causes unhappiness. On the other hand, comfort, physical health causes happiness. Another one is sense pleasures. This is a very big thing which is chasing us. We are driven by these five senses, pleasing the senses. The whole entertainment industry is running on that. Whole food industry, the modern food industry, pleasing the taste buds, running on that. You look at any of the consumer products, cosmetics, many things, all those are running on sense pleasures. On the other hand, the sense pain, I taste something bitter, or I see something unacceptable, whatever, sense pains. And if you come to mind level, expectations, desires not met causes unhappiness. Expectations, desires met causes happiness. Negative emotions, cause unhappiness. Calm, tranquil mind causes happiness. Negative thoughts and imaginations, this could be worries, imagination, like fear. Fear is actually a negative, false image of the future, actually. Positive thoughts and imaginations create happiness. Ego hurt, causes unhappiness. Somebody criticizes, or we feel that, oh, I'll be seen small, whatever, in the eyes of others. And ego boost causes happiness. Energy, low energy causes unhappiness. Exuberant causes happiness. So if you look at, these are the different layers of our body, and we'll see there are panchakoshas, right? Body, mind, energies, more, I would say, we can actually experience them much more. And you should notice what exactly happens when these things happen, which causes us happiness. That's a very important thing. Sense pleasures, expectations, desires meeting, ego boost. Momentarily, what happens is our mind becomes calm at that instant. Do you notice? For example, sense pleasure, you watch some beautiful sunset. You'll say, wow, so nice. And what's happening is your mind, less of the clutter is reduced. It's actually calmed down. So it's actually not the sunset which is causing happiness. It is our calming down of the mind which is causing happiness. This is a very important point to notice. Without this, what's happening is we are chasing outside because we think the outside objects and events and phenomena are giving the happiness. They are only the triggers. They are triggering something inside us which actually causes happiness. This is a very significant thing to reflect, because if it is happening within me, which is causing happiness, that means I have full control on that. Whereas external events, external objects, other people, I don't have control. Right? Important point to note down here at this level, okay? Now, so let's look at now technologies for happiness. So what are things available for actually to make us happy all the time, infinite happiness? You might have heard of this, right? Kasturi mriga, musk deer, searches for enchanting fragrance all over the forest, not realizing that the fragrance is from its own belly pouch. These are some kind of deers in Himalayas. They say it keeps roaming in the forest, searching for the beautiful fragrance that is coming, not realizing that it's actually coming from its underbelly. That's what is happening for us. We are searching for happiness in the outside world, objects and phenomena. But the source of happiness is within us. And this is what all our ancient wisdom shows us through proof, actually. And that's what we're going to explore a little bit more. So what is the source of happiness? I think we know about these panchakoshas. We have this Annamaya kosha, physical body, Pranamaya kosha, energy body, Manonmaya kosha, mental body, Vijnanamaya kosha, it's called etheric body, Anandamaya kosha, called bliss body. And this is outside world, and this is what we see as our body. And normally we know only about this physical body. In fact, in the modern science, modern medicine, they know only the Annamaya kosha. They don't know energy, Pranamaya kosha. Because in modern science, they don't know about chakras, nadis, for example. They don't know Manomaya kosha. For example, I track Scientific American, and they have a separate branch called Scientific American Mind. But the research they do is on brain, nervous system, which is actually Annamaya kosha. They think that is mind. And some psychology is there. So they are actually missing this big chunk of who we are, or what belongs to us. I won't say who we are actually, because this is our vehicle. And they know only this physical dimension. So right now, all our education, the whole world is actually driven because of those Western influences, and we are only stuck here. Whereas we are sitting on gold mines in our Indian wisdom and looking east and west for answers actually. So this is classified as gross body, Sthula Sharira, which is kind of the visible body. This is called subtle body, the Pranamaya and Manonmaya, Sukshma Sharira. And then there is causal body, Karana Sharira, which is the cause for all these things. This whole creation happens from inside out and from subtle to gross. And we are not this body actually. Again, there are a lot of proofs. Let's see whether we can touch upon something of that. We are here like the self, the I, or the consciousness. And this whole body belongs to us like a vehicle or a gadget. So what is happening when we saw that watching sunset, for example, right? Then the mind becomes quiet. Then what happens is this bliss body is actually comes into perception. We tap into that. That's why we feel happiness. So the more we are able to tap into this Anandamaya kosha, we will be happy. So we don't need anything from outside to be happy, because it is actually source is inside. Similarly, if you notice, if you are very healthy in the physical body, you won't even notice there is a body, right? You will be just running and walking or even flying. But moment there is a pain, even a small dust in the eye, or even a small this nail edge, you will know, oh my God, there is one small part there. That means whenever this part of this body is almost absent, we tap into the deeper part of our body. That's why the whole approach is actually transcending this. That's when we tap into this, our underlying subtle existence, which is the nature of which is actually the Ananda. Are you getting what I'm saying? So this is like a virtual reality gadget. It's actually giving us a false impression of this existence. Again, I won't be able to go very deep into that. I'm giving you some references towards the end, because I think 1.5 years back, we did a 5-part series, which has the most comprehensive aspects of everything. You can always refer to that. So I'm giving pointers towards happiness in this. So I'll pause for here. Any questions, comments? And we'll see how to tap into or transcend these bodies so that we reach into that Annamaya, or rather Anandamaya.
Yeah, I guess that was the question, Vishu. So, I mean, since you're going to talk about that a little later, I'll pause. But basically, at the physical body level, there's always something happening, right? There's something, or even on the mental body, I mean, whatever, because there's always something happens. So, you can't stop things from happening, even if it's just a cut in the finger kind of thing. There'll be something at some point of time. So, while that is happening, how do you stay at, say, what you're calling the bliss body?
Yes. In fact, they are all possible. There are examples. For example, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had a throat cancer, very painful throat cancer, but people around him saw all the time he was in bliss. That means there could be pain in the physical body, but still you can transcend. You observe yourself, you are having some disease like fever or whatever, and you get a very happy news from somewhere. For some time, you won't even notice that you had all those pain or whatever, because your mental body became so activated, you transcended your physical body in a sense. So like that, the more you transcend these gross to subtle levels, you reach more into this Anandamaya. Okay, so, and there are now techniques.
But I guess the key question is, is it a transcendence process that is kind of, it's an evolution path, it takes its own time, or here and now, irrespective of what's happening, you can be at the bliss body?
Yes. In fact, we'll come to that. Here and now, actually, you are the happiness. That's what the, Vedanta, or what do we call that?
Advaita.
Yeah. So they demonstrate, in fact, there are 35 kinds of very scientific proofs which demonstrate that we are actually this self or the consciousness. We are not this. This whole thing is actually part of the nature. Just like we see plants, animals, earth, we see they are all nature, and we separate ourselves and think, I'm not nature. Maybe I'll include even somebody else is part of that world, but I'm not that. I'm separate identity, individual, right? That this separate identity is coming from this gadget, this virtual reality gadget called the Panchakoshas. So in reality, we are not that Panchakosha. We are actually this self or the consciousness, which is called Satchidananda. Satchidananda. That means by nature it is bliss. That means here and now we are actually the happiness. We don't have to become happy. We are the happiness. But we are covered with all this, whatever you can say, ignorances and masks. So the whole technology is to how to realize that and stay in that. Then whatever happens here, it doesn't really bother us. Okay, that is where we are heading into. Okay, just a quick forward-looking thing for your question. Okay, now what are the paths? Really, the technologies. We want to be happy. If you take this analogy of climbing mountain, there are as many paths to go to the top of the mountain based on which part of the mountain you are, right? If you are on the south, there are some paths. If you are on the north, there are some paths. East, west, whatever, wherever you are, there are some paths to go to the top. So in our vehicle, this Panchakoshas, we have these 4 main faculties which you can use to go to this top. One is using our body, which is called Karma Yoga. That means selfless action. Through that, actually, you can reach into that. See, a lot of this unhappiness comes because we are thinking about self. I mean, self in the sense of me, the mind, egoistic self. When we are much more, that's why people who are very pious, who are with serving, who are donating unconditionally, they feel more happiness because they are less of this me, my, I aspects. That is actually the karma yoga, service, selfless action. Then using our emotions, bhakti yoga. Devotion is the highest form of emotion. Bhakti yoga is about surrendering. So through surrendering, we actually transcend those panchakoshas. We transcend that I, me, ego aspects. That is bhakti yoga. You can reach that. Jnana yoga, which is using intellect. This intellect is not the typical intellect that we call. This is more of a viveka. That means I clearly understand what actually is the right thing, what is wrong thing. When I say right and wrong, I would say whatever takes me towards liberation is the right thing. Whatever takes me to entanglement is the wrong thing. That's the only definition of right and wrong, actually. So through that, for example, through inquiry, who am I? When I say I am feeling happy, who is that I? That kind of an approach. Similarly, for example, if you look at when I was a child, my body was, this big. Now I'm this big, but still I feel I'm the same person, right? My body has changed so much. My mind is constantly changing. Still I feel the so-called I is the same person. So what is that I? Who is that I? So inquiring about that, that is through Jnana Yoga, like that. Then Kriya Yoga is using energy, the chakras and nadis, and raise the energy to exuberance. So these are the primary paths to this, and there are combinations of all these things. And there are this Ashtanga Yoga, which is a step-by-step approach. Yama, Niyama, which are actually the practices of like Satya, Ahimsa, Swachha, Shaucha, all those things. And then Asana is dealing with body, but it's not an exercise. It's not for body. It's actually to move the energy in the right way. And then Pranayama is actually using the breath to moderate the energy. Breath is the most powerful feature we have actually. If you reflect, breath is the only thing which is both voluntary and involuntary in our system. Do you notice that? See, hand, raise, leave is a voluntary thing. Heart is beating, digestion is happening, they're all involuntary. I can't control that. Breath is voluntary. That means I can change it. I can hold it, leave it. I can moderate it. Also, it's totally involuntary. It's constantly happening, right? That is the key. So it has a link to our nervous system, endocrine system. That's why all the neuroscience research shows just by using the breath properly, we can moderate the energy system. That's why it's called pranayama, not swashayama. It's not about just breathing. It's actually changing the energy. Then there are dharana, which is pratyahara. Pratyahara means you can say alternate food for the senses. Instead of they looking out, look inward. Dharana is holding the mind, and dhyana is actually, I would say, act of non-doing. Then samadhi is a state where we reached to that, beyond that bliss body. So there are step-by-step proper techniques. And normally all these yoga schools, if you look at like Isha or Art of Living or Sri M, all those people, they combine them in what's called sadhana, seva, satsang. These three practices. Sadhana is predominantly Kriya Yoga. It has all these, including asana, pranayama, and Kriya. Then seva is Karma Yoga. Satsang is Bhakti and Jnana. So they combine this. That's why they are very effective. So these are really the technologies and tools to cultivate this happiness. So you can't tell the mind, be happy. It doesn't work. Because mind, body, energy, these are all very interrelated. So you need these kind of techniques which actually cultivate in us that states. In a sense, you saw that panchakoshas, they clean those panchakoshas from the impressions or the past karmas or the memory. Vasanas, correct. That means they become transparent. That means you can see those Anandamaya kosha. You tap into that. That's how it actually works. Okay, I described this. When I share this, you can go to that, share the slides. So there are modern proofs now. Now they are saying happiness is a chemistry. For example, just by some of this pranayama, you can see how it changes the neurotransmitters. You know, we produce more dopamine. That means we'll have less depression. We can produce oxytocin, which is called pleasantness hormone. That means if you produce more oxytocin, you will be happy unconditionally. You don't have to have, oh, if this happens, then only I'll be happy. You'll be naturally, no reason you can be happy. In fact, there are oxytocin bars. You can go and breathe oxytocin and be happy. But problem is, if you use more of the outside substance, your internal chemical factories will shut down. That is the biggest problem. You know, people say stress and go to doctors. They give antidepressants. They are basically dopamine. So what happens if you take more of external chemicals? It is just like, economy. If you import a lot of goods from outside, the local industries will shut down, right? Very similar way. If you import all these chemicals from outside, our internal chemical factories will shut down. Then we will need more and more substitute. So the better way is, we know how to tune these chemical factories, and we have all these techniques. You can produce all these neurotransmitters. In fact, there is a Google Stanford research, part of their mindfulness leadership program, Research Inside Yourself, where they have done a lot of research. You can look up. They have studied all these things, about 35 neurotransmitters they have studied. That means it's a chemistry we can manufacture within our system. We can manufacture happiness. Similarly, in the brain, a lot of changes happen. So the ultimate technology for happiness is Advaita, non-dual. So this is what our Upanishads actually show us. Our very nature is happiness. We are happiness. So they call it as Satchit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. That is our true nature. And we are not the body-mind entity. So we are mistaken identities is the cause for all the suffering. Example is, for example, you look at a rope and then assume it's a snake, if there is a little darkness. And then imagine what all happens. You will jump and you will cry and you will try to run away or try to kill it. All that happens, right? Moment you see it closely and say, oh, it's just a rope. What happens? Everything just dissolves, right? Exactly, it's like this, they say. It's a mistaken identity that we think we are this body, mind, energy entity. Again, there are, as I said, more than 35 proofs, very scientific. Again, I have described this in one of those 5 series. I'm giving you references. You can look up that because we will not be having time for that. And understanding who we really are in just 20 minutes. Swami Swarupayananda, I shared it some time back. I think Shobha replied to that. So phenomenally, he describes it very well. So it's best to hear from him. Again, you can practice this. There are what are techniques called Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Today, what we are doing is Shravana. We are just listening. It's just feeding our intellect. And we are trying to convince our mind because otherwise it doesn't allow us to do anything. Right? All this circus is to convince the mind. After that, you actually contemplate on that and go deeper into meditative state, and then you will start feeling it. So some simple tips, because they may look like very complicated and require a lot of investment over a period of time. But there is no substitute, okay? We need that. But there are some simple tricks to deal with on a more a day-to-day basis. One is, I would say, happiness is a choice. You just really look at that. It's a choice. We can choose to be happy. Here, there is a nice statement from Sri Ravi Shankar. He said, problems are inevitable, suffering is optional. Isn't it? See, outside problems, we can't prevent it. Because the world runs, samsara runs. People will do some things, natural events happen. So many things happen in the outside world. Problems are inevitable. Suffering is optional. Suffering is our own cause. We are only causing suffering for us. Because it's our response or a reaction to what happens outside, which is actually in our control. Be happy no matter what happens outside. If you consciously choose this, you will see that you will start becoming more and more like that. And you can bounce back from negative impacts very quickly with this awareness. Another one, if you are happy, you get more happiness. It's a positive spiral. It's law of attractions. And counterwise also, the more you start becoming unhappy, it's a negative spiral. If you get out of, if you give out happiness, you get back more happiness. In fact, giving is the best way to get. In all aspects, you just look at this. Money, happiness, peace, because it comes back multiplied. Accept people and situations as they are. This is another very powerful thing. It doesn't mean it becoming submissive. You accept the fact that people and situations are like this. Otherwise, you'll be worrying, oh, this should not have been like this. That person should have been like this, which are actually not feasible. You accept as they are, then it liberates us to take the right action. Be a witness, Sakshi. This is extremely powerful. The witness can take us to actually the Advaita Vedanta. Now you start noticing everything passes. Nothing is permanent. And the observer remains unaffected. The I as the observer, I am noticing, oh, I was happy some time back, now I am not happy. Or some time back I was not happy, now I am happy. I felt that way, this emotion then, now is. So start observing everything like that. That means you start realizing that this observer who is observing that is not changing. Everything else is changing. And that is actually real we. This is right from childhood to now. That is the constant that I feel as this is me, right? That is that witness, Sakshi. Again, this is another very important one, very easy also actually. Be playful. Leela. In fact, Krishna is the role model for this. For all roles, for all situations, he has demonstrated that. Being playful. That's why it's called Leela. In fact, we need nothing to be happy. You just do some manana, you will notice that actually you don't need anything to be happy. And if you get a flash of that, you will see that it is so liberating and it's so empowering. You will in that instant, the whole burden of the life actually dissolves. You can actually feel like that. Just a minute, I need to close the window here. It started raining. Okay, that's a good sign. Then another interesting, this is my own experiment as well as I have seen with myself and many other people. Homeopathy works in an amazing level. It works at Pranamaya Kosha level, unlike all other medicines. Of course, Ayurveda has a very different approach. In fact, in Ayurveda, health is called as swasthya. Swasthya, that means being positioned in the self, actually. That is real health. That means you are actually transcending all these panchakoshas and actually positioned operating from that self. That is swasthya. So Ayurveda looks at so holistically. But in modern days, it's still difficult because we have seen it still as a more of a physical level. That's the problem. Homeopathy works at pranamaya kosha level. If you know how the homeopathic medicines are made, not even a single molecule of the original substance remains in the homeopathic medicine. Its atomic vibrations gets transferred into that medicine. And when you take that, it creates resonance in our energy system. And then it works on the nervous system, endocrine system, then hormones. That's how it works from inside out. And it tunes our manufacturing system like that. That's why it's very powerful. If you look at homeopathic materia medica, which is the book, it starts with always the mind symptoms first, because that is where you can relate what is happening at pranamaya kosha, manonmaya kosha level. So it works from there. So this is a for chronic situations. I may see all these things, but I'm still not able to come out of this, whatever negative situations. I have seen homeopathy works wonderfully. So I'm concluding now. Be a happiness factory, manufacturer and distributor of happiness, because there is great demand for this product all over the world. There are actually 7 billion customers. So you can, whatever success you call is actually impacting people, isn't it? Ultimately, all businesses, whatever is actually impacting people at the end. So if you become a happiness factory, you will impact. That's a great way to be happy and further, spread happiness. So I have given the links here. This was the 1.5 years back, the COVID times. We did this navigating turbulent times, the 5-part series. This has all the details. This is the most comprehensive set, and they are kind of a flow from part 1 to part 5. They are interlinked. You can look at them. These are all the recorded sessions of those sessions. I'm almost time. I'll just cover one more slide and then stop. I know people will have question. Yeah, I understand all these things. I can be happy, but this social situation, my professional context doesn't allow me because there are so many people pursuing so many things. I feel I'm left behind, all those kind of things, right? Which drives me to be like that. So we need to understand what is the map, where are we, and what is this whole map. So making sense of that. I would say this zone of unconscious confidence, dark age, this is where the world is, majority. See, we are running, these are all actually the musk deer, Kasturi Mriga. We are actually chasing this outside world, seeking happiness. It's dark age. I call this unconscious confidence because people here think, yeah, this is real. This is the most way to be happy. I know if I get rich and famous, whatever. In a lighter vein, this is the #1 musk deer. You know what is that? Lighter vein, okay?
Unhappy.
That is Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
He's the #1 richest person, and 3 wives, 10 children. He has conquered the earth and gone to space, but still the happiness search is continuing, right? And there are millions of followers. Then there is zone of doubt or confusion. This is, I would say, our kind of people who are in this group. This is where we struggle actually, because we are torn between this, the majority, and this minority, which is zone of conscious confidence, light age, who are pursuing deeper into the spiritual dimension, who have experienced, tasted. So we get torn a little bit, 2 kinds of messages. The world is teaching us, the whole education and the social conditioning is teaching us run this way. And the spiritual science is showing us that, no, go this way, right side. And we get torn between this. That's why it's a difficult zone. We need to sustain this. In fact, we don't have to change anything in the outward, because all this is an internal transformation. It's an internal state of being. So we can be perfectly being here, but operate in this world. That's a better way. So this is going outward, kinetic, running. This is going inward, potential. In fact, so a few days back, there was an article by Nath. I don't know how to pronounce that person. The Buddhist monk who passed away some time back from Vietnam. He's very famous in Europe and US and all. His article, the title is "Sit Down and Save the Earth." Because we're running too much and actually spoiling the whole earth. He's saying, sit down, like this, and then save the earth. You will save the earth. Because we are destroying it in the pursuit of happiness. So the current state reality for these people is that I am this body-mind complex, and there is this vast world out there. Whereas the reality of this Upanishadic reality, which, as I said, there are so many proofs in that, there is just one consciousness, non-dual. And to reach that, it's a two-step process. First step is, I am beyond this body-mind. Shankaracharya's Nirvana Shatakam. Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham. I'm not this body-mind, all those. That's the first step. Then the second step is, I am actually everything. And Sarvapriyananda's video is wonderfully, this is another 1 hour video on this, very beautifully described. So I'll share this presentation. You can watch it at your leisure. With that, thank you very much. Our formal session is done. I'll stop the recording, and then we can